Hail and well met. Frog in my throat. I'm Amanda, your humble narrator and teller of tales of daring do, dastardliness, hilarity, entertainment, adventure, and just outright stupidity from 20 odd years of tabletop gaming. And I was trying to figure out where should I start with the series, and then it occurred to me I should start at the beginning. The beginning for me was a summer I spent working in a scout centre here in Ireland. A scout centre being kind of like a holiday type camp place for scouts. And I was working there in the kitchen doing basically cooking for leaders, things like that. And I was working with these two guys who were avid tabletop role players. They freaking loved the game. So I was there for about a month, and over the month we spent a lot of time talking about it. They were explaining how things worked and the whole lot, because I was really interested. I hadn't come across it before. And we didn't get to play because they had no source books. They did have a copy of a set of Hero Quest with them, which we played the ever-living crap out of. We'll get to Hero Quest in the future. But what we actually did other than that was just talk about it. So I came back and I went back to school. It was transition year, I think. Maybe? Hang on, I need to check the date on something and I'll tell you. December 1995, that would have been the December after that summer. That's a long time ago. Wow, that's an awful long time ago. I think I was 17 at the time, or 16 or 17, one or the other. 17 actually, because I did in transition here. Getting back to the story. So I got back and I was like, okay, I want to do this, and I started looking for resources. Now bear in mind, in Ireland at the time, outside of universities there weren't really tabletop role players, at least none that I could find. The end result is that I had to make up almost everything off the top of my head based on what I had been told. That and my one and only source of information, which was Dragon magazine, and this is the first copy I ever bought, 224, December 95's edition, incidentally the last edition to be stapled, and 225, which was January edition. And the story I'm about to regale you with begins in February of 1996. Long, long ago, back before we had the horror of a Cheeto wearing a wig in the White House. So, which, depending on how the recount goes this weekend, will tell you how long ago this was recorded. So, yes. So I got together four of my friends, actually. 4 of my friends, explained what I wanted to do, and they were like, yes, hell yes, we're geeks, we'll do this. It was going great. I had my party. I had an idea for what I wanted to do for a story. I literally ripped off The Legend of Zelda. It was a case of, there is a princess, there is a dungeon. You must find the dungeon, find the princess and rescue her. And if you're really good, one of you might end up marrying her. Well, I didn't tell them that, but it was going to be part of the story. Now, the problem was, I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, 2 Dragon magazines, what I could remember and what I could make up on the fly, make up in the time before that and on the fly on the day was all that I had. That and 2d10 and 1d6. Yeah, this goes about as well as you would expect. So, it's a Wednesday afternoon. It's a half day in school. I arranged with one of the teachers to use a language lab for us to play this game. We push the tables together, we make a great big table, we sit down, I've made up a screen so they won't see my roles. They're all sitting down with their pre-made characters. I actually had them come up with a character concept for each of their own characters, and then they gave that to me a few days before the game, and I did all of the statting, and you have a dexterity of, a strength of, an intelligence of a rock. Ironically, the wizard had the intelligence of a rock. His int was ridiculous. His int was like, I was using this weird convoluted mess of a percentage-based system combined with, I don't even know how to describe it, but the max intelligence you could have, because I had 2d10, was, 20. And this particular wizard had an int of, I think it was like 6 or 7 or 8. It was something ludicrously low. The end result was he had one spell, Magic Missile. And that was literally all he had. He could fire one magic missile, which, if it hit, would do 1d4 damage. Have fun with that, mate. So, everyone else is like, we had 2 spearmen. Decent weapons, 1d6. We had a a swashbuckler, very much based on the Dread Pirate Roberts from The Princess Bride. Princess Bride was even bigger back then than it is now, because at the time it was a relatively new movie and everyone had seen it. Unfortunately, what I had seen instead of The Princess Bride was Krull. We'll also get to that in the future. So, there we are, surrounding this table. Everyone is ready to go. And I lay out the story. They are a group of adventurers who have returned from an epic failed quest in which they were trying to rescue a halfling, some guy's halfling wife from 3 goblins, and they managed to rescue her, but they got the shit kicked out of them, and it was 2 months later they'd recovered and they were ready to go back out into the wilds and kick some ass. So they were sitting in an inn, of course, getting drunk, of course, and in walks a random NPC with a twiddling mustache, you know, all the classic tropes, looking for a party to rescue the princess and go to a dungeon and get the materials needed to it. It was a key. They were looking for a key. The key was being guarded by, I think it was being guarded by a Naga, because I was really into Indian mythology at the time, and there was a lot. I remember reading about these half snake, half human people that were Naga. I think they were from the Indian mythos. At least I think that's what I thought at the time. I can't quite remember. It's a long time ago. Long time and several blows to the head ago. So he walks in and, you know, he go to the dungeon, get the key, climb the tower, get the princess out. And the road is that way. The road was that way. And unfortunately and fortunately at the same time, fortunately for ye, but unfortunately for me, the players went along with the railroading. They had no idea that you could go against the railroading, and neither did I. Hadn't a fucking clue. Not clue one. No idea. So they went along. And the way I'd worked it out was that the players were going to make moves. Essentially kind of like Hero Quest. And they would roll their 1d6, and for every 1d6 they would move X number of miles. And with each number of miles, they had a 1 in 20 chance of a random encounter. I thought that was fair. So they rolled the dice, and they went 6 miles, and the journey was several days. And the idea of this was, it was to give them a chance to get to grips with the system, and for me to get a chance to get to grips with a system that I had bastardized from Dragon Magazine, what I had been told in my own imagination. So they rolled the dice, 6 miles. They rolled the dice, 1 mile. They rolled the dice, 3 miles. They rolled the dice. Random encounter! And this is where the wheels came off my wagon. Because I had a bloody chart for random encounters. And it was weighted very much in the direction of animal encounters rather than people. Because my feeling was that the wilds, and they were going into the wilds, would be something like the wilds in The Lord of the Rings and The Fellowship of the King, which was and is one of my favourite books of all time. In that they don't come across, the hobbits and Strider don't come across really anyone during that journey, apart from the elves. You know what I'm talking about, you know. It's like there's not many people out there. So I figured it would be weighted heavily towards animals. And not all of them are nasty. You could have a random encounter with rabbits, which was an opportunity to hunt and get meat and to gather XP and develop your ability to develop your characters a little bit. This is still something I do to this day, where if there's a random encounter, you have the opportunity that it's simply an XP building exercise. Or an experience building exercise. So I was hopeful. I was like, okay, it's heavily weighted towards animals. There's only 2 dangerous animals that can come across, wolves and bears. It'll be grand. It'll be grand, sure. What's the worst that could happen? They rolled a fucking wolf. I had them roll 1d10, which decided if it was animal or humanoid, and then I had them roll it again, which decided which animal. And it was a wolf. Of all the things it could be, it was a wolf. Life got very painful. Because the way I was running this game was, you had to roll under twice your dexterity to hit. I still do this, by the way. I run my own bastardized system to this day, but it's been very much polished and cleaned up, and it works really well now. It didn't then. I had no idea what I was doing then, so it just didn't work. So I had, to hit, you had to roll under 2 times your dex, minus the dexterity of the animal or creature you're attacking, because that represents their ability to dodge you. Wolves had an enormous dexterity. Their dexterity was like 10 or 11. And nobody in the party had very high dexterity. I mean, I think the highest was 13, and everybody else was below that. One of them had a dexterity of 5. 5! We're talking about a guy who would walk into the edge of a door, bounce, and do it 3 more times before he missed it. They missed the door. They all missed the wolf. The wolf didn't miss. And it took about 10 minutes for this battle to go through. And by the end of it, the wolf was down 1 health point, and the entire party was dead. And everyone was sitting there looking at each other, and all of them were looking at me. And I was trying to sink into a hole in the ground. Weirdly, we were all computer gamers. Now, bear in mind, this was 96. I want to... Hang on. I have the date right here. It's in this. It's in this. You know, it was February of 96, I want to say. February of 1996. And we were all computer gamers, but here's the thing to remember. Computer gaming at that point in time in Ireland amounted to the NES, the SNES, the Mega Drive, or Genesis, depending on where you got it from, Amstrad, BBC, Atari, and Amiga computers. There were no IBM PCs. And, well, there were, but not many people had them, and online gaming wasn't really a thing. The internet was not nearly what it would become in the future. But it was there, but it wasn't. It certainly wasn't something I had access to at that point in my life. The internet was just something I knew existed. That was it. And the end result was we really didn't have a clue what we were doing. So everyone turned around and looked at each other, and as I said, gamers to a man, they went, "Fuck it, we'll try it again." So we took 2 or 3 minutes where I listened and spoke to my players, which is an important thing for DMs to do. We'll get on to DMing well in the future. And everyone was like, okay, so what if we play the same character sheets, change the names, swap them around between players so that we're now playing different characters, and we're another party that were hired like a few days later because this party died. Sounded great. Sounded like a great idea. So they did that. And the way I was running the system was, if a random encounter had happened, as long as it wasn't too long, it was still there. The wolf was still there. And this wolf had a fuck ton of human meat to get through, so he was quite happy to stay there. He had dragged one of the bodies underneath the low branches of a fir tree, and because there's this thing you can do with fir trees, especially if it's snowing, where you go underneath the lowest boughs and it gives you a shelter. It really works. I've slept in them. It can be quite warm and quite comfortable. And wolf was still there. So along goes the party. Not so random encounter. I literally did. They have a 50-50 chance of the wolf seeing them. The wolf saw them. Lather, rinse, and repeat. Always repeat, because it happened again. The wolf went down by 1 more health point. The problem being, by the time they got there, he had regained the first one. So that happened. And we did it again. And we did it again. And by this time, I was thinking, okay, well, wolves are intelligent animals. They're it's going to realize, hang on, there's loads of meat here, and it keeps coming. I'm staying right fucking here. So he stayed right fucking there. 7, 8 iterations of this happened. 8! And we all were looking at each other. We were an hour into the session. We had use of the room until 6 p.m. School finished at 3, so we had plenty of time. We went, okay, look, let's go to the shops, let's get some junk food, let's come back, we'll think about it, we'll figure out what we can do. So we're walking away down to the shops, and I'm trailing behind, trying to figure out how in the hell I was going to salvage this. They were ahead laughing at how badly it was going and trying to figure out how in the hell they were going to salvage this. We got our stuff, we're walking back to school, and one of them turns to me and goes, I have an idea. Why don't we kind of shift things a little bit? Maybe increase our chances to hit based on the size of the animal. Brilliant idea. Fucking brilliant idea. So I'm like, okay, that increases the chance of me actually successfully hitting this particular enemy. Great, let's do this. Let's go, we can do this. Go Team Death. In this case, death being what happens to the team. 2 more iterations of the entire party dying now. Admittedly, the last time they brought the wolf down to 1 health point. It was almost dead. And it was about this point that everyone goes, well, one of the guys goes, I need a piss. So he gets up and he goes down, he has a piss, and he comes back. And he comes back smiling. And I'm like, what the fuck has gone on here? He walks in, he goes, I've had a great idea. Why don't we go a different way? It took that long for the party and me to figure out, hang on, they can go around this. So they go around it. So we're back to rolling the d6 for distance travel, and I'm back to rolling encounters. d6. X number of miles. d6. X number of miles. And by the way, there was a limit on how many miles you could travel in a day. I averaged it at about 20 miles per day, which was pretty much what... based primarily on British rifle regiments during the Boer War period and the Zulu War period, which was about 20 miles in a day. Great. So they're rolling, they're rolling, they're rolling. I'm rolling and rolling and rolling. Random encounter. Now, bear in mind, the first random encounter was a wolf. And the only thing worse in the animal encounters was bears. Try and guess what they rolled, and for the record, it wasn't a bear or a wolf. So I roll. It's humanoid, and I'm just sitting there. I'm now sitting, wanting to put my hands over my face, thinking, oh God, this is the end. Oh God, this is the end. Oh God, this is the end. Ogre. I rolled an ogre. Yeah. They didn't miss him. Not once. Even the wizard hit the fucking thing. Which was really shocking, because in the previous period, that particular character, no matter who played him, never once hit. Even the wizard hit it with a magic missile. The ogre killed the party in 12 actions. 12. Party is gone. And everyone is sitting there looking at each other. And at this point, it's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Myself and 2 of them were rock climbers. The school had a climbing wall, and we just looked at each other and went, do you want to go climbing? So we all went climbing. We just gave up. And I did not run another game for 2 years. The next game I ran, I was in 5th year. Because I did... Actually, no. It was the following year, because it was 5th year and I was in transition year when that happened. Yeah. So it was the following year I ran another game, but it was a full year. And in that year I discovered there was a war and role-playing convention in the local university, and I got access to stuff. And it helped a lot. But that is a story for another time. I suppose the moral of this particular tale is you can still have fun even when you have no fucking idea what you're doing. But if you have no fucking idea what you're doing, your game ain't gonna last very long. And that's it. So, I hope you enjoyed this tale of woe. Thank you for staying a while and listening. I'll be back again in the future with yet more tales of daring do and daring not, and daring don't and daring death. But for now, all I can say to you is, be good. Bye for now.